Hey guys, I'm in Athens and it's the first thing in the morning and I feel like I need to make this video, okay? Because I need to tell you something. I see a lot of us oversharing lately and we need to be mindful of that. Oversharing doesn't mean not sharing anything. Imagine you're like a treasure chest and all the information that you have about yourself is your treasures. So think about how much value you can provide, because if you give everything away so quickly, then what do you have left? You're not going to seem like you're very precious about yourself. When you have nothing left to give, nobody will care. And this is why we need to keep the mystery and make conscious decisions as to who we share what with. For example, I make sure that people will appreciate the value of what I'm sharing with them, but I've also found it very freeing and powerful that I learned to gatekeep certain things that are super precious to me, because not everyone has earned the right to access certain information about me. And that's completely okay. We all have layers to ourselves, and that's what makes us so interesting. Anyways, if you're new here to my channel, I'm all about growing and leveling up, whether that's physical, mental, or spiritual. And this includes sharing the things I've healed from, because I have overshared too much in the past, whether it's because I wanted to make friends, or I was desperate, or seeking approval, or just being lonely, or trying to defend myself. I realized I don't actually have to do any of that. It can also be a compulsion from having things like an overactive nervous system. But anyways, oversharing is not our fault, and it's something that we can control, because data is such a powerful commodity these days. We should all become the master of our information. Anyways, I think that my oversharing was a way of seeking validation, and maybe it was the need to feel like I have to say something to impress the other person, or I just wanted to be seen and acknowledged. All of that's in the past now, but I still look back sometimes and think like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Yeah. So I don't want you to look back someday regretting what you said 5 years ago. So I'm going to teach you guys how to get into this mindset of strategically sharing things in a way that can only help you and not cripple you. Because not everyone who collects your data does it for your own good. They could be collecting ammunition against you. And by the way, you can probably find out who these people are just by strategically sharing information. But I stopped sharing very vulnerable information after I experienced firsthand how people can use it to their advantage. So don't assume someone feels compassionate towards you just because you work together or you're part of the same community. Sharing is a liability and people need to earn that. And so there are very specific things that you should never share with anyone who is not close to you. If some people may overshare super negative things or trauma dump when you first meet them, it's also not something you might want to tolerate, because you have feelings and you're not yelling into the void. For example, if I really can't help you with specific information, then I'm going to feel bad instead, which is not helpful for anyone, especially yourself. And if you're one of those people who overshares, the healthy way to get that compulsive urge out of the way is to take it to a therapist who is professionally equipped to help you. When I first started seeing a therapist, my issues weren't solved overnight. It was more so learning to develop the language for things that I thought were my personality and knowing how to articulate myself in the moment with more control and being more precise over what I share and what I don't share, which not only solves the issue but helps me grow as a person. This includes if I'm triggered over something specific, then I'm able to give people an honest response about how I feel instead of crashing out. That's what actually helped me over time. So instead of trauma bonding with people that I barely even know or hoping that someone else might fix me, just slowly getting better at understand what made me who I am today and being able to communicate with people better and gaining more self-control. A therapist will be able to listen to your problems and ask you questions that can direct you to seeing new perspectives. They can also give you advice and teach you techniques to manage emotions better. BetterHelp is a sponsor of this video, and they're on a mission to making starting therapy easier. All you have to do is to fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist in as little as a couple days. I recently switched to a new therapist, and you can also do that anytime with BetterHelp at no extra cost if it's not the right fit for you. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. If you want to get 10% off your first month of therapy, you can click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/MayAliceSuzuki to get your discount. The first thing you shouldn't share is your body count. Your intimacy is not a stat for public consumption. Literally, nobody needs to know that. It's a lose-lose situation. You don't have to tell your partner exactly how many people you've been with. It just opens Pandora's box. Even if they act chill and nonchalant, it still plants seeds of comparison and insecurity, judgment, resentment, and that door, once you open it will never close. For example, I don't know my husband's body count and he doesn't know mine, and we both understand that it's for the best and we don't ask about it, we don't talk, and if it ever comes up, just pretend that you forgot and give them a ballpark number or something. And definitely no need to go into details unless both of you are mature and cool and understanding enough about it, which honestly I can't say for 99% of people, not even myself. And don't tell your friends either. If it's low, they're gonna judge. If it's high, they're gonna judge. Either way, it becomes something that they rank or they gossip about, or they're gonna see you differently. Even even if you think you're winning, like look how many people I've been with, like it's some kind of flex and you love to talk about it. The people who are seriously looking for a long-term relationship and emotional depth are not impressed by that statistic. That kind of flaunting just doesn't hit like it does. It's mostly for you and maybe your therapist, but it's not very mysterious. It's not empowering. To me, intimate relationships are meant to be intimate, and those things are, or at least should be, kept private. So keep your own history sacred to yourself, and believe me, there's a real strength to being able to keep a secret. Low-key, your partners will appreciate that, because not everyone wants to be talked about like they're a conquest or piece of meat in a transaction. This is not a meat market, and it's definitely why celebrities make people sign NDAs. It's exactly for this reason. And another thing you shouldn't be talking about is exactly how much money you make, because the moment they know the number, they stop seeing the person. Pocket watching is so real and super annoying, because unless you're lying about your income to be someone that you're not, or you're strategically disclosing it to grow your business because your business relies on people wondering how you got all that money, aside from these two reasons, there's really no real benefit to be putting a number on your name. Even if you really have to share how much money you make for transparency reasons, you don't have to associate your identity with your number, because once you throw that out, whatever it is, people will start assigning a specific value to you, and it's not going to be in the way that you might hope for, because if it's less than what they imagine, they might just write you off as, oh, you're not all that. But if it's more than what they expected, then suddenly your whole life is under scrutiny. Literally, people are going to start saying things to you like, oh, you make that much, but you still rent? Or why don't you have a nicer car? Or why aren't you flying private? They might not understand the strategy behind certain financial choices that you make, because they only see a very limited version of you and they're not in your head. For example, maybe you're renting apartments because you're smart enough to avoid a terrible real estate market where interest rates are super high and property taxes will eat you up. And whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because people love to judge whatever they don't understand. But the second they know your number, they start building certain expectations about you and projections around it, and they stop seeing you for who you are and start seeing your paycheck. Real wealth does not show off. It doesn't need to, because that's new money behavior, and it's loud and it's flashy, showing off, constantly trying to prove something. The ones who have really made it or come from money, they're really quiet and private. They understand that oversharing attracts entitlement, or it might attract envy from people who don't have money, and sometimes even danger from people who want your money and want to either manipulate you into giving it to them, or worse, they might try to scam you or rob you. So keep a little bit of a mystery, and even if you have to, just say that you're comfortable and you're good, and that's good enough, because real security is priceless and 100% worth more than money. You should also gatekeep things that make you happy, because joy grows best in silence. The little things that give you joy and happiness and peace, because not everyone wants to see you happy like that. Some people are just clocking your happiness to compare it to their own lack or the things that they don't have. And then some people even take it a step further, because whether or not you believe in the evil eye, negativity can take place in so many different ways. And so whether evil eye is real or not, energy is definitely real. I said it from experience. I used to be bitter and low vibe and angry at the world. And when I was feeling that way, I hated seeing happy people. It made me very angry, because low-key I was not happy, but I would never admit that to myself. And that's how I know it exists. There are two types of real villains in this world, okay? Not the evil villain, like cartoon kind of evil. It's the kind of people who either speak uncomfortable truths, and the people who are very visibly happy. Both of these people will shatter the illusions that people will have about themselves, and most people live in a mental cage. They convince themselves that the world works a certain way, that their limitations are fixed, that certain things aren't possible. But when you speak the truth, or when you're visibly and unapologetically happy, you break that illusion. You become living proof that their cage isn't real. And that's very threatening. That's why both types of so-called villains end up with a target on their backs. Don't get me wrong, you guys. You can be happy, but keep a few things sacred to yourself. Your happiness is not for mass consumption. Even if you're trying to create content, okay? True happiness is not a performance. When you share anything and everything that brings you joy, you're opening the door to all kinds of lack energies around you, like jealousy and projection. You can share a few things if you want, but learn to curate your inner world. Let the people who are actually close to you and support you witness your joy. Again, I'm not saying don't share anything. I'm saying keep a few things to yourself, and you will know what's really precious to you. And so the things that are precious to you, keep that close to your heart. You also don't need to announce that you are in a better place or you found peace, and you don't need to show off your new apartment or your blessings or your wins. And if you ever win the lottery, definitely don't tell anyone. I mean, for me, if I ever won $100 million, I'm gonna change my identity and move across the world. And protect your warmth, especially if you're still trying to grow more of it. It's about keeping what's precious to you and hiding away from people who don't want the best for you. So instead of performing and flaunting and showing off your peace, I want you to just live that peace. And likewise, if you haven't made peace with something or someone, keep it close. You might feel a strong urge to talk about it with someone, maybe to feel validated or to process what happens and feel understood. But an unhealed wound is vulnerable, and if you're oversharing to people who you're not choosing wisely, that's an open invitation that people can just come in and twist the narrative and poke at it or use it against you. Again, like, I don't think all people mean to be cruel like this, but it might happen unintentionally when something isn't fully integrated yet and you still haven't really fully processing it. And if it still hurts, even a well-meaning reaction from someone who's genuinely concerned about you can feel very hurtful to you, like they don't understand you. And this is how unhealed wounds can get weaponized or get reopened. And it's not always immediately and not even on purpose, but eventually, whether if it's a disagreement or in gossip or whatever, you're going to regret handing them to someone, that piece of information. And true forgiveness is really hard because it takes a lot of quiet inner work to forgive someone, and it's a tough concept to face. But until you're actually at that point of being healed, the world doesn't need to know what you're going through and what's still actively hurting you. So the best thing to do is to just wait until it becomes a story and not an active trauma situation. Then you can share your perspective from a place of strength and not pain. I know what some of you guys are thinking. Well, May, you're sharing everything just so that we can learn from your pain. Well, that's not true. I gatekeep a lot of things. And unless you really get to know me in person, you only know what I share on my channel. Low-key, this is also why I'm doing all of these group trips for a reason, because I want to get to know you guys too. Anyways, another thing that you should gatekeep is precious projects that you just started working on. Whether it's tied to money or relocation or business or relationships, whenever you first start planning your next move, you are planting seeds. This is a very delicate time. So you need to give these seeds time and water and a lot of quiet solitude and hard work. And that's how you get actual work done. You don't get anything done from just talking about it and receiving random judgment from people, and people will start side-eyeing you or sending you negative energy. Even your friends and family and coworkers, some of these people will really not get it, especially if they haven't done the same things before. If they have no idea what you're talking about and they're giving you unsolicited opinions, how is that going to help you? People really do project their own limits onto your vision, and sharing your plans way too early just invites sabotage and doubt and all kinds of projection. Sometimes it can be subtle, but other times it's very direct and very hurtful. Some people might even try to beat you to your idea or copy you, but either way, you don't need any of these things, especially if you're just starting out on something new. Your next power move does not need press releases. Plus, when you're just starting something out and you have no prior experience, you're supposed to be bad at it. That's a whole part of the process, but it's very hard to embrace that badness when people are watching you through a magnifying glass and watching how you do everything. And since you're starting something new and you're bad at it, they're going to see it as, oh, this person is trying something else I haven't seen before and they're bad at it. You don't want that to be echoed back onto you and hear that kind of feedback, because everyone looks at you through their own eyes, and so they see you differently. If their expectations and the little comments that they make or their vibe is even a little bit judgmental or negative, that can shake your confidence before you even start to get good at it. There's also scientific studies that have shown that when you talk about your goals before you've actually done anything, your brain processes and releases dopamine as if you've already done it. You get the feeling of success without having to do the work. So your motivation already starts to weaken because you talk about it. You're cooling down your engines before the project even gets to grow. So save the energy for the project. For example, I could not lose weight for years because I was talking about it. I was talking about every diet that I was going on. I was talking about every meal plan, the new gym workout I was going to start next week, just so that I can have something to talk about at brunch. But I never really stuck with anything past 2 weeks or a month. But that tricked me into thinking that I was doing something. And I only started losing a ton of weight when I didn't tell anybody, and I focused on myself for months. In months, to me, it's obviously way faster than years and years of failing to lose weight. So protect all of your new beginnings and wait until you're standing on your own 2 feet, or wait until the roots start to take hold. Then maybe share it with the people who are supportive and who have earned the right to see you bloom. My next point, which is also related to this, is your progress. Any progress that you're making, whatever it is, whether it's your glow up or you're trying to grow a business or your social media following, that's gonna trigger people. Even the people who seem to have everything together and they love to constantly talk about all their wins and how they have everything, especially those people. Because deep down, I think that these people are constantly trying to prove something, and your progress is going to threaten them. They're also the same kind of people who get very competitive, even though there's no real reason to be. Again, that's like their problem. It's not your problem. But you need to watch out for envious people. Envy is quiet at first, and then it grows resentment, and if you're not paying attention, emotion, it festers and then it's going to spread. And other people's envy can really affect how they're going to treat you, how they will talk about you when you're not there. And if there's an opportunity for you, you can be rest assured they're not going to put you on. Robert Greene was not being dramatic when he said that envy is more dangerous than hatred. At least when someone hates you, that hatred is direct and it's very honest and it doesn't sugarcoat anything. Whereas envious and jealous people tend to be very performative and they will do things in the name of just like, oh, I'm looking out in your best interest, but you're not. They want to see you lose so that they can be better than you. Jealous people, especially friends or even family, they want to keep you close so that they can monitor you and gain benefits when you're succeeding, but then also low-key put you down because they secretly want to be you in a way. They want their cake and eat it too. But that's because they don't have any cake. And jealous people, they don't have anything. They're like a black hole, okay? They're the void. Looking back, I think that I was being both underestimated and also envied at the same time because I was getting promotions at work that other people thought that they deserved more than me. But even if you have low self-esteem and you don't see your own potential, other people can. People can see your potential, and if they feel threatened by it, they might come for you early on before you even know what you're capable of. That's why now I keep work and friendship totally separate. And I'm not going to sugarcoat the whole family dynamic either because some of the worst betrayals ever come from the people in your own family. It's not just your flaws that provoke people, your strengths provoke people too. So just stay grounded, watch out for the signs, and protect your energy like it's sacred because it is. And also be careful about sharing personal details online because that's literally how social media platforms make their money. Nothing in the world is truly free. If you're using something for free, no matter what it is, then you are the product. There's a reason why YouTube runs ads on non-premium members. And that quote about how you are the product, by the way, is from a documentary called The Social Dilemma, where former executives and engineers from companies like Facebook, Google, and Twitter, they expose how social media platforms manipulate user behavior for profit. So every single post that you're sharing, every memory, every story, every tagged photo from 10 years ago, that's all your data. Your relationships, your insecurities, your vacation spots, all of these things get harvested. So you think that you're posting a selfie on your birthday or a wedding photo or something, but they see it as an opportunity to profile you, your age, your marital status, your income, your friend group, your spending habits, and then they're going to use those to target you with ads at best. But then at worst, they're selling your psychological profile to the highest bidder, to companies that you don't even know exist. You become a piece of data to these people, and it's not even making you rich, it's making someone else very rich. So your life is not a product. Your personal details and your data is not some commodity to be traded off and sold to social media companies. Even if it's on your Finsta, they still know who you are, so be careful what you choose to share. I'm not even touching the fact that you don't know who's watching your stories or looking at your location tag and figuring out where you are at a certain time. It's so easy for anyone to find out where you are on what date because of what you're sharing, and that will tell them whether you're home or not, or even what kind of valuables that you might own in your house, things like that. For example, because I work in social media, I have to keep some platforms active, but I also have to choose my battles, including what I choose to share. I even ditched Facebook years ago and nobody really noticed, and I get a very few people wishing me happy birthday these days, but then they're not really my friends. The people who are actually my friends will remember because I'm on their calendar somewhere, or they just somehow remember. But then the things I do choose to share, like on Instagram, for example, they're exactly the kind of digital footprint that I want to leave behind. So if you're still addicted to things like scrolling or trolling, even though I don't condone either of those, at least protect yourself, like use a fake name or use a throwaway Finsta or account or something. You never know who ends up seeing it. Maybe your boss, maybe a future employer. So keep your real world close and your digital footprint very faint. Similarly, broadcasting your traumas, and I don't like how TikTok and social media have basically normalized trauma dumping for content and engagements. And they have everyone sharing their deepest traumas and just like most embarrassing moments to the world with their face on it, just so that they can go viral and gain sympathy and get likes and followers. That's so bleak to me. This is also exactly what therapy is for, where you can have real conversations with a therapist and a professional and be entitled to privacy with safety and a proper structure, where you have someone who's actually trained to help you unpack your baggage. Seeking validation in the comment section isn't healthy or healing either, and maybe even encourages you to do even more trauma dumping and share even more, which is even worse. And you shouldn't be seeking clarity from people who don't even know you, and you definitely shouldn't be following advice from someone someone who's never even heard your full story. And you can never, ever get the full picture just on social media. That even includes my content, right? My advice, and I say this all the time, take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't, because it doesn't apply to everyone. Unless we're working together on a one-on-one coaching client relationship where I'm offering you coaching advice, specifically tailored to you. And I do that, by the way, but let's be real. This is a YouTube video. I don't know your life in detail, but you do. You already know in your gut what's helpful and what isn't. So listen to your instincts and trust your own discernment with everything. You also have to think about the aftermath of what happens after you share that content. Who's potentially going to see it or screenshot it, right? Like I mentioned, coworkers, bosses, potential future employees, family members, or even the very people who hurt you. And I'm not talking about I care so much about what everyone around me thinks. You actually literally have to if you want to live in the society. So with all this trauma that you're sharing online, would you tell your boss that? And you never know what's going to end up on the algorithm or end up on their algorithm, especially if you guys know each other or have each other's phone numbers or contacts. These social media platforms have become so sophisticated that even if it's not intended to be like that, sometimes your videos will still get recommended to someone that you may know in real life. Would you want them to see it? Not to mention, and this is also related to my previous point where social media companies absolutely harvest all your data and everything about you and target you for ads based on your information. Your trauma is not for sale. You don't have to announce to the world that you're in a world of pain or even to anyone. You don't have to perform your trauma and your breakdowns and crying for validation. Even in a previous video of mine when I was about to cry from talking about something, I had to stop myself halfway during filming because I don't want to perform that. Healing is done in private. It doesn't require an audience, and the best part of your healing always happens in solitude. Low key though, but actually high key. Don't talk about your ex to your current relationship. Bringing up your ex to a new partner or a relationship that you're starting to establish just builds ghosts in a relationship. If that's the kind of foundation that you're looking to build in the beginning, then you can watch the same kind of information about your past love life that you shared be used against you in an argument or something. You think that you're giving context and sharing stories, but really you're unknowingly creating comparison. You're introducing a new person into the relationship who doesn't belong in your life anymore. Sometimes that can even be from years ago. And even the most secure partner is going to start questioning and wondering, do I measure up to this ex of yours? Are you secretly still hung up over this ex because you keep bringing them up? If you're trying to build trust, then this is how you're going to make it even more difficult to do that. And whether you're praising your ex or dragging them or even just casually mentioning things that they used to do, it says something about who you are and not who they are. You might think that you're just being honest, but if you're still healing from that relationship and you experienced trauma from the past, for example, if that person was a very manipulative narcissist who manipulated you and was terrible to you, bringing all of that into your new dynamic too soon can backfire on the ways that you don't expect. Because you might not realize this, but what you're actually sharing is that you were willing, at least in the past or at least for a while, to be tolerated, being mistreated like that. That you were vulnerable or even enabling at times to this kind of behavior because you didn't see it clearly back then. You might not even see it clearly now. You have to remember, okay, your trauma is not your fault, but it's something to protect. Discernment matters, especially in the beginning, because you don't know who this other person is. And if you don't know who they are very well, if they're a manipulator or a narcissist or even a control freak and you don't know that, you're literally just telling them exactly how to manipulate you. And that makes you an easy target. Not everyone deserves full access to the most wounded parts of you. So let people earn the right to witness your healing and not weaponize it. And if you're using the conversation just to prove how healed you are, then you're not as healed as you think. Real healing, like I said, takes place in solitude. It's very quiet. It has moved on. And when someone is truly healed, they move on to greener pastures and they don't even think about it. They don't need to name any names or revisit past wounds to validate the present. So if you really have to, talk to your bestie, talk to your therapist, or journal about it. But your new relationship should be built fresh and not on the ashes of the last one. And you have to, at the very least, respect the person on the other end enough for you to leave your past behind where it belongs in the past. And don't gossip about anyone that you know. Even if you think that it's just harmless, you're just talking and you're sharing something that you heard about someone or complaining about your boss and that you have no other motive aside from just gossiping and venting. Gossip will always say more about you than it does about anyone else that you're talking about. No matter what you're saying about someone, whether it's good or bad, the way that you talk about it reveals who you are and how how you handle trust in a relationship, how you move when these people are not looking, and the fact that you're talking about people behind their back, then how easily you're going to reveal information about someone just so that you can entertain people. That will always come back around somehow. I don't know how, but it always eventually does. People might laugh with you at the moment, but they're going to be noticing the things that you're saying, and they're thinking, if they can talk like this about them, they'll talk like this about me. And oftentimes, more often than not, that piece of gossip will always go back to the person that you're talking about, and they're going to say, well, so-and-so said that about you the other day. Do you want that kind of reputation? I don't think so. You don't want to be known as a person who runs their mouth talking bad about everyone around them. If someone hands you a piece of information like gossip, just leave it and maybe even just observe those people and see them for who they truly are. Why are they saying that to you? At the very least, praise people in public and criticize in private. If you have real actionable feedback for someone, tell them on a one-on-one session privately instead of telling everyone around them except for them. That alone will show a lot of maturity and character that you're able to handle conversations to help people improve. But yeah, if you have nothing nice to say, just don't even say it. And I make sure that whatever comes out of my mouth is actually something that I can truly stand behind. Because I know that loose lips don't just sink ships, they sink your whole reputation. And on a related note, keep your relationship drama off the record. Don't complain about your friends and family or your partner, especially to people who also know them, because this is too messy, guys. It's too close, it's gonna spread, and it will always come back around to the people who you're talking about. You're gonna hear about it, even if you're just venting to your family or venting about your parents to someone else, for example. It changes how other people will see that person too and how they see you. Your words become receipts and people will collect them. And saying the wrong thing to the wrong person can possibly cause drama and tension they don't even mean to start in the first place. And let's be real, okay? Relationships, especially family relationships, can be very complex and layered and built up over years and years. You might be fighting with your sister one day, but then tomorrow you guys might make up. But if you're just telling everyone about what happened, about your fight today with your sister, everyone's gonna remember that fight and not the fact that you made up the next day. Like, they're literally not going to be able to unhear it just because you're okay with you and your sister again. They might see your relationship with her differently, or depending on the severity of it, you might also tell them like, wow, this is something that you're willing to accept and this is something that you're okay with because you're made up with them. The people that you're telling anything to will never ever get the full picture. That's only between you and whoever it's happening with. So keep your grievances private and talk to someone who's very neutral, or write it out and then delete it, or keep a journal, and protect the people that you care about, even when you're frustrated and even when you're fighting with them. That shows real maturity and loyalty. Relationships are so complex and they have their ups and downs. Don't let one bad day ruin how the rest of the world will see someone in your family or someone that you're with. So I actually do have some strategies for you guys on how not to overshare and what to do if you already did. Like, I'm not ashamed to tell people may approve details that let them see me, but don't give away my entire soul for free. And I'm not ashamed to share the parts of me that feel real and vulnerable and human, as long as they're not active traumas and they become stories that I can tell people. When I first meet someone, I also try to be myself as much as possible because it makes it very easy for me to see if they either like me or not, and if they don't, then fine, I'm not for everyone and we don't waste anyone's time. But let's say if your goal is to become any kind of public figure or actress, singer, content creator, influencer, where you're basically putting certain parts of yourself on display, just know that people have opinions about everything, and having opinions about your life is basically a part of the price. And if you care and get too attached to that, then you will never find peace or win, because people will always twist your words. They always twist your narrative, no matter what it is that you say. And that is exactly why a huge part of self-improvement is learning to protect your energy, not just your image. And if you don't, eventually you're going to get drained, or worse, exploited. So live your life like a slow release capsule and pace yourself. You don't want to unload everything and dump your entire life on someone in the first time you meet them. Most things can be shared, but your timing is everything, especially as your relationship progresses. Maybe ease them slowly into the heavy stuff, because then you will know at that point whether they deserve that information or not. And learn to reframe your story, because I learned that the way that you say something matters as much as, not more than what you say, especially in the beginning, but it's the way that it's being received. Like, when I talk about my traumas as stories that happened in the past, that shows that I had to go through what I went through to get to where I am today, and that I have the strength to turn that trauma and pain into power for me. People will respect that about you, and you get to keep your dignity while also showing who you are as a person. If you've already overshared, you can always pull back and recover, but you don't have to add fuel to the fire and overshare even more just to try and justify and explain why you overshare in the first place. Just pull back and be silent and let that silence speak for itself. Because eventually people are going to forget, and if they bring it up, then you have every right to say, well, I was going through it at the time and that's how I felt about it, but I'd rather not talk about it now because I moved on. And downplay your life whenever it's wise to do that, because privacy is your power. You can be warm and open about something without spilling all of the tea. And it's okay to say that you had trauma, even if you don't go into specifics, because instead of confessing it, you can curate your experience and share from a healed version of you and not from a wounded version of you. And people will relate to you because everyone's had trauma, everyone struggled with something, but not everyone deserves backstage access to you. And at the end of the day, emotional intimacy is earned. It's not owed. So if you're still here, affirm with me in the comments. I will protect my peace. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you do find peace, and see you in the next video.